Hey everybody, Steve here with Local Level Podcast. I'm sitting here today with Jenni of Studio Phoenix. She is the owner of the, what would you call it?
We're primarily known for being a pole dance studio, so we teach pole dancing lessons, and then we also do other aerial arts. We do lyra and aerial hammocks, and then some ground-based classes like yoga.
Wow. So, okay, let's back up. Let's explain to the audience what a pole dance studio is and what aerial yoga is. Just walk us through step by step, because I think there's a huge misconception. People don't really know exactly what it is. If you can clarify that for us, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. So pole dancing studio, we're teaching women, just everyday women, how to pole dance. Most of our students are soccer moms and women who just kind of want to find their mojo and feel sexy or try something new or do exercise that's actually fun. So it's some of our students like sexier style, some like sportier style, and we have a little bit of both. So pole dancing, and then the aerial yoga, we use the aerial hammocks. So it's kind of like the silks if you've seen Cirque du Soleil, very similar to that. So we'll do yoga using the hammocks and conditioning using the hammocks. And we just added lyra for January, and that's the aerial hoop. So if you've seen Pink does aerial hoop.
Yeah, Pink. No, very serious about that too. That's like a big part of her show.
Yes, absolutely.
That's insane though. I mean, the workout for that, I don't even know how you guys do that. It's insane. I mean,
yeah, we start you off small. So we start because we know most people coming in have never done this before and don't have the muscle tone for it. And so we start you. All of our exercises are built for people who are walking in off the street who've never touched any sort of aerial apparatus. I was the slow kid in gym class. I was picked last in gym class, so I am not a naturally athletic person. And so all of our workouts are built for the everyday woman.
And I mean that whenever you do something physical like that and you're surrounded by people that are very supportive, it's a really, really positive experience. When we were talking on the phone, we were talking about the environment that you have put together in your specific space. Can you kind of explain a little bit about what it looks like, what it feels like when somebody comes through your door?
Absolutely. The word that we hear most from our students is they feel like they're home. I decorated it with a very comfortable vibe, and it's very plush and nice fabrics and kind of darker colors, and you feel like you're walking into a living room. And we have a big sign in the front of the lobby that says we're a drama-free environment. So with all women, it's something that we make sure that we really stress is that everybody is welcome here. And as long as you're loving and judgment-free and supportive of each other, you're welcome in our tribe. And so it's really cool to be in that environment, because women, when we actually lift each other up and empower each other, are unstoppable.
Sure, I agree. The female is the most, what would you call it, the apex predator? Or the female of the species is more deadlier than the male.
Absolutely.
Right. But no, that's great. I think that there's a misconception with this particular thing. How do you deal with that? I mean, because at the end of the day, what you're really talking about is something that's building people up. It's not something that is in any way negative. I mean, it's healthy. It's empowering mentally. Have you encountered any of that kind of like, I guess, uneducated?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And it's funny because you'll get people that kind of joke, "Oh, are you a stripper now?" And I do have students who are strippers and instructors who are strippers, and they're phenomenally talented women. And I have students who are accountants, and I have students who are in college. So it's a really wide variety of personalities and styles and what they're hoping to get out of class. I think that we're able to own the empowerment side of that without diminishing or devaluing those who do this as a profession. And that's something that's really important to our studio, is that everybody's welcome. So it's definitely, it's not stripping. We don't take our clothes off in class. We focus more on the athletic aspect of it, but we do have exotic classes and sexier classes. But it's what really sets the studio apart, I feel, is that it's a sisterhood, and it's the relationships that they're building in the classes, and having a space where you can be vulnerable and not have to take care of everybody else around you or wear a certain hat or look a certain way is unbelievably empowering. we are all different body shapes. You know, I'm not a size 2. I'm not 20 years old. And because we need skin for the pole, we're usually in sports bras and booty shorts. And so we're out there with our cellulite and our stretch marks and our saggy skin and whatever, because we're real bodies and real women. And it's so beautiful to see that, and to have one of my students who's in her 40s sent me a photo of herself in a bikini on her vacation, and she said, "This is because of you."
Wow.
That she wore a bikini and she was proud, you know, and just here it is. This is me, and
wow.
That's an incredible space to be.
That really is. I mean, that's life-changing for a lot of people. I mean, just the confidence level. If you don't, you know, I mean, not having confidence is one of the biggest reasons people get depressed and feel alone, and, you know, maybe won't socialize or won't do something that they want to do. And building that confidence up and helping people, I guess, find that is so important. And you know what? That's really, really great that you have built a space that allows people to do that. And touching on one of the things that you just said, you know, why do you think people come to you? I mean, because people come off the street and people maybe have heard about the things or whatever. But what is the I guess what is the main reason that people walk through your door the first time?
Initially, it's that they kind of want to do something naughty.
Sure.
They want to try something fun and different.
Yeah.
And that's my friend dragged me to my first class.
Yeah.
And said, just come and keep me company, you know. But that's usually the initial draw, is kind of that, oh, it's a little bit naughty, right? And then once they get in there, they realize, I need this, you know, and that's what it was for me in my first class, was seeing how confident these women were, who looked like me and were just walking around in barely any clothing and confident in their skin. And I wanted that for myself. That was not something that I had at that time. And then the sisterhood, and having a space where you can have healthy female relationships where you're lifting each other up. That's something that we crave, and it's not something that is necessarily out in the rest of the world.
Right. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Those relationships where you're vulnerable, behind closed doors, you know, in a safe place.
Absolutely.
So important. So let's talk a little bit about your background, you know, leading up to where you're at now, because you've done a lot of different things. You know, when we were talking, you had a full career in photography before. Can you tell us a little bit about, I guess, leading up to here, everything? Just tell us everything.
Tell us everything. Well, I graduated with a degree in advertising and public relations, and worked in that field for 3 years. I was laid off 2 weeks after my wedding.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah,
yes.
That's pretty rough.
It wasn't the best timing in the world, but it worked out well, because it was the catalyst I needed to do what at the time was my dream, was to start a photography company. I'd been doing it as a hobby, and it worked out well to be able to take that full time. So
sure.
I did that for 15 years, and then retired a few years ago from that, because it was just too hard to run both companies well. So I still do a little bit on the side here and there for our staff photos and things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, did weddings and babies and boudoir and labor and delivery, everything, all the photos for 15 years.
Yeah, and you said that it really was growing up, you know, when we were talking on the phone, you kind of like laid out the fact that you wanted to find something that would actually help people and empower people because of your experiences growing up. Can you explain a little bit about that?
I think growing up in junior high, I was chunky and blonde and wore bifocal glasses and was short and Polish and the butt of every joke you can possibly imagine. So I learned to tell jokes really fast so that I could beat them to the punch.
Sure.
But yeah, I kind of grew up not being full out bullied, but kind of the mean girl stuff in junior high and high school. And I think that's part of my vision for the studio, is it's that safe space where people can come and feel like they fit in, you know. And I've had a few students tell me that this is the first time that they've had solid relationships with women, or that they've felt a part of something, and that's a powerful thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely in agreement on that. if we could talk a little bit more about, I guess, how you got to this. Of all the different things that you could have done in your career, why this? What was the transformation from, advertising to photography to this?
So I have fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. So my everyday, how I feel on a good day, so a day like today, is how you feel when you have the flu. So that's what I'm working through, is that level of fatigue and achiness.
Wow.
Just to kind of power through and teach classes and do things like that. That's kind of my high point. And on my really bad days, I'm in my wheelchair or I'm in bed. When I took my first pole class, I was in bed more often than not and couldn't hold a full-time job, and was becoming suicidal, realizing that this is the rest of my life, I'm in my 20s, and it's not fun to think about this is the rest of my life. So it was kind of my last-ditch effort at reclaiming my health and trying to find something to live for, and realizing what a huge change it made in my life. I'm not claiming that it cures depression or diseases or anything, but it's absolutely improved my conditions. And I think that was really what made me think I want to share this with other women, is seeing, okay, this made such a huge change in my life and boosted my confidence. I'm like a completely different person, and I'm naturally a clinging to the wall introvert. And so for me to be able to get up and speak in front of people or lead classes, or it's absolutely made me more confident, and I wanted to share that.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to have you on, because it's powerful stuff. I mean, you're not the only one. There's so many people that are dealing with the same sort of things, not necessarily exactly.
Absolutely.
But in some ways. And I think a conversation like this can definitely be helpful to people, if not just to try new things.
Yes.
So tell us about your friend pulling you in the first time to do this. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So she contacted me and wanted me to come to a class with her. And I was raised very conservative Christian. Both my parents were ministers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, I'm a good little Christian girl. I don't dance on poles. And,
right.
And I realized that I was only half right in that. So she offered to pay for my class if I would just keep her company. And I had so much fun. And I realized that I was missing something that I didn't even know I was missing.
Wow.
And I always try to encourage people, at least try it. At least try it. Even if you think you might hate it, try it. Because I really didn't see myself as sexy. I didn't see myself as athletic. And so I always want people to give it a shot. At least try. Yes. And so she dragged me to that class kicking and screaming, and I fell in love with it. It's so addictive, because you walk out of class empowered and realizing, wow, I can do more than I thought I could. And then you come back the next week and you can do even more.
Yeah.
And the next week you can do even more. And the biggest thing to me that I realized as a woman is, instead of seeing my body as what it looks like, I see it as,
or how you view it.
Right. I'm recognizing it for what it can do. And that's an entirely different mindset. And for so many of us women who are constantly confronted with photoshopped images, and you have to be perfect and you have to do all these things.
Oh, it's all fake.
Yes.
Everybody knows it's fake
absolutely.
too.
Absolutely. And it's so powerful to have that mindset switch of, no, I don't look like a Photoshop model, but look at what I can hold my body weight upside down with just my arms. That's amazing. So it's been really cool, because I've had a few people ask me how I feel about my daughters being surrounded by pole dancers growing up, and I said they're the best role models, because they're these confident, strong women who aren't obsessed with what their bodies look like. And
that's the most unhealthy thing you can have, is lack of confidence and complete just, I guess, disgust with yourself.
Yes.
I mean, that is just so toxic and terrible. And culture today, I think we're coming around a little bit, though.
Yes.
Over the past few decades, though, it's been just about real thin, coat hanger models, and that's not real. Those aren't positive images for females at all.
I think I try to stay away from shaming any body types. I think all shapes are real,
Sure.
but I think that we're accepting more variety in what we see as beautiful, and I love that. I embrace that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's great. And so what exactly was like the wow, this is the greatest thing ever moment about, like when you first went in, what was it about the experience the first time that you went in and experienced this? What was it that really got you?
I got emotional because I realized, the teacher was leading us through our warm up and not in a sexual way, but she would have us run our hand down our leg or touch our body. And it felt so awkward to me. And I realized this is my own body and I'm not comfortable touching myself even in a non-sexual way.
Wow.
And that was eye-opening for me. And to realize that I needed to grow in that area and that was something that I lacked. And again, that I didn't realize I did, and it's one of those things you don't realize you miss until you see it's there.
Yeah. That plays right into what we're talking about. I mean, being uncomfortable with your own body. I mean, like you have to live in your body.
Right.
This is your vehicle for consciousness.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of this is about your perception and the perception that people have about, I guess, pole dancing. They just think of strippers and all that stuff. And it's so closed-minded because there's so much like physical talent behind that. I mean, I could never do anything like that.
You could.
Yeah, I guess. Sure,
it actually
right.
comes easier for guys because men have more natural upper body strength.
Yeah.
And so we're always a little bit jealous when we let the boys come for our Christmas parties and things like that, and we let them play, and they can do things that we work so hard to do. But it's harder for you guys to do the sexy stuff. So.
Yeah, I would look so funny doing that. I would look so funny. And so, okay, so like what, give me a breakdown of like your clientele. So how do people find you? We were at the top supposed to plug the studio. Can you plug the studio? Tell everybody where to find you. Tell everybody your website, all that stuff.
Yeah, so we're Studio Phoenix. Our website is phoenixpole.com. We're in Arlington Heights, Illinois. And you can find all of our class information and everything there.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely put the website in the description below as well. And okay, let's get into the business side of it a little bit.
Okay.
Because, I think we're totally in agreement that what you're doing as far as empowerment and, the just health, I guess, is really important. The business side of it, you had shifted careers. So what was the transition when you decided that you wanted to stop doing the photography and you're going to open something new and take a risk? Because it is a big risk. Mm-hmm. What was your head like? What made you think that it was the right move?
Well, I still did photography for a few years after we opened, so I didn't completely leave that right away. I was taking classes at one studio, and through a series of events ended up leaving that studio and going to teach at my first studio that I started at, sure. Which was wonderful, and was starting to look for spaces to open my own because I knew I wanted something with my own flavor. And each studio kind of takes on the personality of the owner, and I knew that I wanted somewhere that was my space. Yeah. And the opportunity opened up to buy out the studio that I had left, and that was how we got started.
Okay. So, but there's, that was a pretty concise answer, but there's a lot more involved there. So you there was a point where you decided, you know what, I'm going to make this my career. Can you tell us about that?
I think it was, I knew I wanted to teach pretty early on. And then the more that I thought about teaching, the more that I realized I wanted it to be my own. I wanted my own space. Mm-hmm. I had so many ideas of how I wanted to have the classes and the curriculum and the atmosphere and the feel of it. And I actually bought the website, probably 6 months before the opportunity opened up to buy the studio. Mm-hmm. So way far in advance, I already knew what I wanted to name the studio and bought the website and everything so I knew that it was coming.
So, okay, not to cut you off, but so Studio Phoenix, why?
Yes. So the phoenix is a bird that dies and dies in the fire and is rebirthed from the ashes.
Right.
And for most of us women, pole dancing is a rebirth opportunity, and finding a new side of ourselves. For many of our, I shouldn't say many of our students, for several of our students, they end up leaving unhealthy relationships or quitting vices, smoking or things like that, because they realize they're worth so much more than they've been giving themselves credit for.
Sure.
And so it's absolutely, what I envisioned was it would be a space of rebirth for women, and that's absolutely what it's become.
Wow, yeah. I mean, it all plays into itself. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Now, where are you located?
We're right by Euclid and 53.
In Arlington Heights.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so, okay, so tell us about the process. Like, I know we're not getting into prices or anything like that, but how does it work? I mean, so you come in and you have to, obviously there's a learning curve. So you offer different types of classes. Can you explain a little bit about what you offer?
Absolutely. So we start you off with pole fundamentals, which is the basics. And again, is written for someone who's never touched a pole, is not athletic at all. You come in and you take a class, and you take a few of those before you move up to level 2. We have 15 levels plus our elite level, which is an ongoing level in our curriculum. And each level that you graduate, you get a graduation certificate, and you get a new garter, a different color garter.
Oh, wow, that's
so
awesome.
It's like karate belts, but sexy.
Is that industry standard, or did you come up with that?
No, I actually borrowed the idea from my first studio with her permission. But the students love it. They love it. So it's a fun transition for each level.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's our pole fitness. And then our other classes, you can kind of either take one at a time, or you can sign up for several at a time. So they're not as progressive, whereas our level pole is progressive.
Sure. Okay. And now you have people coming in all different, shapes and sizes and levels of fitness. What type of, success have you seen? I mean, what's the biggest transformation you think you can point to?
I would say physically, the biggest transformation was one of our students who lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
All through pole dancing. And that was pretty phenomenal. Emotionally, the one that hit me the hardest was one of my girls who, I think she's almost like a daughter to me.
Yeah.
She was 18 and she found our studio right after she got out of the hospital from being raped.
Oh my God.
And came in, and she took her first level, and in our level 1 graduation, she started crying, and we all came around her and gave her a big group hug, and I said, "What's wrong, honey?" And she said, "I'm still here."
Wow.
And she had really struggled with suicide and things like that from what she'd been through, and just seeing that transformation.
Yeah.
They call me Mama Bear because they're all my girls. I love them so much. And but it just absolutely broke my heart in the best way.
Yeah, that's a really serious story. Yeah, I mean, you can almost hang it up after that, right? I mean, if you could do that once, you really made a change.
Absolutely.
You're doing something
for
that
her to be
matters.
able to come in and be vulnerable and reclaim that part of her life.
Yeah.
Was so powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to make you cry.
No.
Tears of joy, though, because
Yes.
of accomplishment.
Yes.
I mean, you're really doing something great there. And okay, so talking about kind of like going back to what I was asking before, have you dealt with, people that are pushing back on what you're doing?
I really haven't had too much of an issue. I've found if I'm matter of fact in how I present it, then they're pretty matter of fact in receiving it. I don't act like I have anything to be ashamed of, because I don't.
No, of course not.
And so, yeah, usually if I just say, "Oh, I teach pole dancing," and sometimes you'll get a little reaction out of them.
Yeah,
but
there's a stigma. There is. It's a fact. So how do you? So you really haven't really dealt with it much, or
not too much, honestly. It's becoming more and more common. Most of the time now, when I say that I teach pole dancing, they'll say, "Oh, I have a niece or a friend or a cousin who pole dances," and
wow.
So it's actually becoming much more common, which is great. When I first started, I told everybody I was taking Pole Lottie's class because nobody knew
Nice
that it
name.
was a gym class.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, but it's becoming so much more common now, and that really does help. But yeah, it's very rare now that I get an attitude. Every once in a while, I'll get someone who's, oh, like, I couldn't imagine doing that. And I said, well, I'm sorry for you. You should try it, you know. And usually I'll take the path of kindness and educating them, and that usually diffuses the situation, and they end up learning something and coming out of it with a better attitude.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, you mentioned that you have children around this too. So I think, tell me if you don't want to cover this, but I think we mentioned it before. There was something where you got a little backlash about the...
Yes. I was the cheerleading coach for junior high at my daughter's school, and the first year went wonderful. Everybody loved the team, loved what I was doing with them. I was educating everybody on anatomy. My girls learned anatomy in Latin and in English.
Oh, wow.
So it was the most comprehensive coaching that they had, and that's what they told me. And the second year, they asked me to take on junior high and high school, which was amazing. And started the year off, and one of the parents complained that I owned a pole dance studio, and they were not okay with that. And it was frustrating because they knew. I've known them for years. I went to high school with the dad, and so that was really frustrating. And I went in and tried to fight my cause with administration, but they just wouldn't have it. So.
And what was the reasoning? It was just because somebody said something, or
they felt that because a parent had spoken up and had a problem with it, that they couldn't have me continue to coach. So the parents had a fit, wrote emails. The kids, all the cheerleaders, signed a petition, passed it around school. It was really sweet. It was really sweet. It was rough because I loved those girls so much, and to be able to speak into their lives at such an important age when they're just starting to have those body issues.
Right, sure.
You know, and we would talk about that in practice, where they'd, find a little roll and be upset, and I said, everybody's got rolls. That's skin. You're supposed to do that. Yeah, You're not a mannequin, and we'd talk about all the amazing things that their bodies were doing and how to fuel them and how to be an athlete. And I think that that's so important to get girls before they have all these issues that I'm seeing on the other end of it now with adults. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame. And I think that'll change. I think that things are moving in the right direction, like you mentioned. People are a lot more open-minded nowadays.
Absolutely.
And 30 years ago, it would be much different.
Oh, yeah.
But thankfully, we're moving in the right direction. And okay, so tell me about like the physical part of it. So you said that you've had somebody actually lost 50 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So what does a workout look like? How long does it run, and what do you guys cover? Can you kind of walk us through?
Yeah, so our classes are 1 hour, and we start with what we call refocus, which is sort of a meditation light. And it's just kind of calming your brain down and letting go. Especially women, we carry all this stuff with us all day, and our brains are constantly connecting everything. And so sometimes just giving a woman permission to let that go is very freeing. And so we start the class off with that, and then we'll do a warm-up and we'll do a workout, and we learn our tricks for the night, and they get time to dance, and then at the end we do conditioning until they can't do anymore. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's definitely a good way to work out. I mean, body and mind, I guess, is the best.
Absolutely.
Best way to go. Now, you are not doing this all alone. Obviously, you have a staff. Can you talk about your staff? And
I have an amazing staff. I always brag on them. So we have 17 instructors right now, and then we also have administrative staff and managers, coordinators, things like that. My instructors are phenomenal women, and I always say my secret sauce is I hire people who are better than me.
Yeah,
and
that was something that I actually wrote down because it's very wise.
That's honestly the reason that we're successful, is that I truly believe every instructor on my staff is better than me at something, and because if I'm the best one in my studio, we can only grow as far as I am.
Exactly.
And I am not an advanced pole dancer by any means, and so. To be able to bring in women that are so incredibly talented, and they love their students, and they have the vision of the studio, and they carry that through into their classes, is so special. And I'm so grateful for them.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, you're only as good as the people that you have on the team. It's a team effort.
Absolutely.
You can't do it on your own. I mean, you can do just so much, you know.
It gets exhausting. Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, there's this show is about the successes and struggles.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about some of the struggles along the way. I mean, in the business side of it, opening up, maybe some hesitation, maybe feeling like did you ever have something where you felt like you made the wrong move and you shouldn't have got into this? Or was it full steam ahead the whole time?
Only like once a week. Yeah, I'd be lying if I said that I was always 100% sure I did the right thing. I think any entrepreneur will tell you that.
Yeah.
You have your days where you just question everything and is it worth it? And I actually keep a file on my phone with notes from students that are just nice things that they've said to remind myself why I'm doing this when it gets hard. And yeah, we've absolutely had times that were difficult and staff members who weren't a good fit with us and we weren't with them and that had to move on. And moving into the space that we're in now was definitely a big leap. That was scary.
Yeah. So you actually recently just made was it recent that you made the change?
No. It was
Okay.
pretty quickly. When we bought out the studio, it was a 500 square foot space, so it was pretty small and not a great location. And so we moved into our current space is 2,600 square feet because we outgrew that space very quickly. It was turning away business and
with 17 instructors, right? I mean,
now we started with 4, but yeah, we started with 21 people in the whole studio. So it's definitely grown quickly. But yeah, moving into that space was scary because rent was crazy.
Yeah,
in the Chicago area.
It always is. I mean, it's like a hermit crab almost. You know, you gotta kind of like. Well, I guess a better one would be like a goldfish. You grow to the size of your tank, right?
Absolutely.
So that's great. And so where do you find? I guess where do you find your employees? Your trainers. Where do you scout from?
Most of my instructors are homegrown. They came up through our classes, and some of them I had for the very first class. They're my babies.
Oh, very nice.
Some have come in from other studios. We had one who was actually driving in from Kenosha for classes and then ended up moving to Chicago to be closer for both of her jobs. One was a studio owner out west, and their studio closed, so she ended up coming to us.
Okay.
But most of ours came up through the ranks, and that's they know the vision of the studio that way. They know how the classes are. They have a vested interest in having it be successful.
So like to give the listeners kind of an idea of what it looks like when they come in, can you compare it to a different type of business? Like, is there some sort of comparison for the type of structure of the business, or like I guess when you walk through it, is it like a fitness studio? Is it like a gym? Is it like a dance studio? What does it look like? How does it work?
I would say probably closer to a dance studio. We have a beautiful lobby that you come in and you can sit in, and I have girls who will come and sit for hours and bring their laptop or hang out and talk, and it's really comfy, and that's where they make their friendships. And then the classroom, we have 3 classrooms. So the first 2 have poles in them, and then the third one has our aerial equipment. So it has our aerial hammocks and our lyra and ballet bars and big open floor for practicing floor work and things like that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And so, so how can people, I mean, I know we're not getting to prices, but what would you recommend for somebody that doesn't know anything about this stuff? They want to get healthy. They want to do something that is fun and different. What would be your go-to course or class? Or
Pole fundamentals would absolutely be where they'd start.
And then what's in that? What does that cover?
So pole fundamentals covers all of the basics of pole dancing. So we go over floor work, things that we do on our hands and knees and on the floor. Two-handed spins around the pole, working the wall, the whole shebang. So it kind of starts to build up your vocabulary as a dancer.
Okay.
Because we also start you freestyling in class, where you kind of will do a little routine, a little combination a couple times, and then we just let you loose and you do whatever you want to do. And so it helps to build up that vocabulary as a dancer, to have moves that you can go to.
So like the moves, I mean, if you don't know anything about dancing or anything, how do you, if you're going to just freestyle, I guess, what are you doing? What's the guidance? What does that look like without actually doing it, but just explaining it?
I always say, when in doubt, hip circle. I always tell mine, just keep moving. Even if you're just walking around the pole continuously for the whole song, keep moving, and eventually it's going to start to come naturally.
And it goes by songs?
Yeah. So we'll play a song, and each class for pole fundamentals, we teach a combination. So we'll teach them the moves, and then we'll put it together, and I'll dance it with them, and I call it out, and that way they know what they're doing. They don't feel like they're lost. And
Sure.
I always dance with them, and we bring the lights down so it doesn't feel quite as, like you're on display.
Yeah.
And it's nice because they can do the combo and feel like they're on top of things, and then they get that freestyle time where they can just get in their skin and feel the music and enjoy themselves.
Yeah. And so there has to be a level of, I guess, self-consciousness, like when you first walk in. How do you kind of work that out?
I think it helps that we have so many different body types and races and ages, and I have women in their 60s, and it really just, it helps that we have a variety of people there, so that they're not just walking in and seeing all cookie cutter body type.
Yeah.
And again, we have signs everywhere, drama-free environment, and that we actually have it written in our waiver that we are positive words only in our studio. And that absolutely helps, and from the beginning, we explain to them, this is a space where you can, it's judgment free.
Yeah.
You're not going to be judged. And we have students who are very self-conscious at first. We always joke that you start off in like pants and a turtleneck because you don't want to show your body yet, and by a few levels you're in your sports bra and booty shorts.
You say you actually have to have skin on the pole though, otherwise you don't get the traction.
Yeah, so the first level you actually don't need a whole lot of skin because we're not doing so much holds up high on the pole. It's more spins and floor work and things like that. Some of the conditioning, it helps to have your calves free or things like that. But
Okay.
at the beginning you don't need a whole lot of skin showing, which is nice because
Sure.
you don't start off feeling comfortable being next to naked.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I mean, there's a level. I'm sure there's a kind of a ramp up period.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, okay, so that leads me. So, how long, I guess, of a period? How long would you say it normally takes for somebody to come in, start out, and get to the point where they're doing more advanced things, like what you were talking about, like holds and all that?
I guess it depends on what you consider advanced. I would say our elite classes are what the pole industry considers advanced, and that's about 3 years in. But you're going upside down about 6 months in is when we start you going upside down. That whole time we're preparing your body for it. So we're doing conditioning. Yeah. We're making sure you know exactly what to do, how to be safe, how to bail safely, all of those things. Yeah. So all of my instructors are trained in spotting. We have crash mats. Everything is very carefully trained.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yes.
You don't want to crack your head. So have you had any injuries that you can kind of note?
I would say my klutzy self, I'm probably the worst injury. I gave myself a concussion on the pole. I got a little too into a floor work move and cracked my head on the pole. So lesson learned.
Yeah. And so, okay, but that doesn't, it's not normal. I mean.
Oh no, yeah. We're so careful, and we really stress the importance of safety, and thankfully the students that stick with us are ones who really uphold that too. And even parties, they'll ask, "Oh, can we be drunk first?" And no, this is a really dangerous sport. You want to make sure you have all your faculties.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned when we were talking on the phone about the culture. Sometimes there might be people that would be maybe having vices, maybe using drugs or something like that. How do you weed that out? Have you dealt with that?
I honestly, I want to knock on wood, in 6 years, I've only ever had one person who was high, showed up high to class. Yeah. And I'm a mom, so I have a pretty fierce mom voice.
Yeah, sure.
So I pulled her aside and I said she was done for the night, and I told her she won't do that again. It was disrespectful and it's not safe, and she never did. She's actually one of my employees now and is just an amazing employee and phenomenal, and I love her to death. And it was just education, and that's usually what most people need.
Yeah. Well, that's it's good to hear. I mean, people like I can't stress enough. I mean, when I first heard about it, I have to admit, I mean, I didn't know anything about it, so I was like, there's always a stigma about what it is that you do, and is it a real professional thing? And it totally is. It totally is something that is like more professional and more important sometimes than just going to the gym.
Yes, yeah. I feel like it encompasses more of the emotional world besides just the physical, and in some sports you're being judged on just what your body looks like, or and in ours it's about so much more than that. And we're in the process of becoming an Olympic sport, which is pretty amazing. And there are competitions. I compete.
I was going to ask you about that, the competition.
Yeah.
How does that work out?
So they have judges, and you have compulsories, certain moves that you need to hit, and obviously the making it look effortless.
Sure.
You'll be timed on how much time you spend on. So if you've been to a strip club, you've seen poles that spin, right? So there's spin pole and there's static pole. And so you have to spend time on each in most competitions. You have to be able to show that you can use both a static pole and a spin pole.
Wow.
And then also a certain amount of time just using the floor, transitioning between the poles, making that look smooth. Mm-hmm. Your musicality, your costuming, everything like that. So there's judging, and there's some of them feed into larger competitions that go throughout the world.
Now, are you guys, or I guess, are you gals working towards qualifying for that stuff, or are you training for that in any way?
I compete on a local level. I don't do international. I'm not advanced. So we have a pretty healthy competition team. I think we have about 12 girls that cycle through different competitions in the area.
Wow.
And then drive up into, like, I've competed in St. Louis. I have a few that are going to Minnesota next month.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, they kind of travel around. And there's men and women, all sexes in the competitions. So usually they don't separate by sex anymore. Mm-hmm. It's just some separate by age. So I'm in the Grandmaster division because I'm in my 40s. Or I'm in the Masters, sorry. Grandmaster is 50 plus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And, we have pole dancers famous pole dancers that are in their 60s and competing, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the upper body strength and, all that, it's just unbelievable seeing some of the things that you guys do. So you have some pretty big news. You have a book coming out. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So it should be out in January, and it's called Rituals for Feminine Power. And it's all about the things that kind of hold us back as women, deep diving into the emotional breakthroughs that we need to kind of embrace the power that we have innately as women.
Sure.
And so it's part journaling and kind of the emotional deep dive, and it's part movement. Because when you tie in the body and the mind, it's so incredibly powerful, the things that you can break through. And it's written so that you can do this in your living room. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to have a big dance space. It's not pole dance specific. It's just moving your body. Mm-hmm. And then we're also going to be having workshops around it where you can come out and take the workshops with the book.
Very nice. Now, there's a background story with the book. Can you tell us about how that came together?
Yes. So
very interesting.
Yes. So I was creating the workshop and didn't intend to really have a book except for sort of notes to go along with the workshop. Mm-hmm. And then realized it would be better to have a book. So I ended up writing the book in 2 days. And I think when things flow that way, it's a catharsis. It's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be out in the universe. And
right.
So I'm really proud of it. I'm really excited for it. And I also wrote a teen version that I had my daughters go through, and we're in the process of editing. And
oh, wow.
So that we'll have teen workshops too. And
very nice.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know about that part. That's awesome. And so what's the separation between the teen version and the normal version, I guess?
The adult version, we get a little bit more into sensuality and sexuality.
Okay.
Those are two different things. Sensuality is tapping into the senses, which a lot of people confuse the two. Obviously, I don't want to approach sexuality with teens.
Yeah. And
sensuality would make their parents nervous anyway. Mm-hmm. So the teen version is definitely more in the emotional aspects and things like that. But and it's just phrased a little bit more teen friendly.
Gotcha.
But it still gets at the heart of things. And having my daughter tell me there's a part in there that deals with accepting your physical body, and you walk through maybe different ideas that you have towards your body, and then you forgive your body. If there's issues that you have against it, resentments that you have against it, like me for chronic pain issues,
Sure,
it can become the enemy. And so there's a part where you walk through and you forgive your body. And my daughter said it made her cry.
Wow.
And she's 14. And
Yeah.
so to already have that hit an emotional undertone for a 14-year-old tells you how necessary it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's as real as it gets. Like I said before, I mean, it's your vehicle of consciousness. That's how you operate. And I mean, if you're not comfortable in your own skin, that's such a bad place to be.
Absolutely.
And so, okay, so what's next? I mean, I know you're doing the book. You have a successful place. Where do you see this business going in the next 5-10 years? Is there anything else that you might want to be doing, or what's on the horizon for you?
I've definitely gotten more into speaking and writing. I want to see the studio expand, and whether that's where we are, creating a bigger space, or adding a second location, I'm not sure yet. We're not quite there yet. But being able to bring that experience to more people is really exciting to me. So that's definitely something that I want to see happen in the future. Okay.
And now, what do you do to promote the business, and how do you promote it?
Most of our students are word of mouth.
Okay.
We do very little advertising. And it's great because the people that come through are high quality when they're referrals. And we do have a Groupon that people can find us on. And then we do just a very little bit of advertising on social media.
Sure.
Things like that.
Now, there was something that you perfect lead in. You talked about the shadow ban.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about the shadow ban.
Yeah, so the shadow ban, if you're not familiar with the term, is when Instagram will hide certain hashtags. So if somebody searches a hashtag, which is normally how people will find you, it'll come up with an error and say that it goes against community standards, things like that. So recently, before the Hustlers movie came out, the pole dance industry was going through a massive shadow ban. So they were shadow banning just every day, even pole fitness or names of moves, because we'll hashtag it with PD for pole dance and then the name of the move. And these are not overtly sexual things, but because of the stigma of pole dancing, we were being unfairly banned. And so even I saw ads that women were fully clothed capris and T-shirts, but there were poles in the photo were said, no, we won't run that because there were poles in the photo. And yet you'll have a topless man or, some bikini model influencer is completely fine. So it was really frustrating, and it didn't affect our business too badly because we're business to consumer, but a lot of the business to business companies were really struggling through that. So it can be difficult to advertise without getting triggered. If we have too much skin showing, it triggers, the bots kind of kick it back at us. So I really try to capture the essence of who we are as a studio and that sisterhood and that fun environment.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're doing it right now.
Yes.
And it's great to be able to do that. Now, so okay, who is your target? Who's the target audience for what you do?
My target audience, we are all women for our group classes. We do privates for men if men are interested. Honestly, just women who need to feel good in their skin, to love their bodies, to feel confident. And again, we have everything from 18 to in their 60s and all different shapes and sizes. So it's really just women who want to feel good about themselves.
Gotcha. And once again, and we'll put it in the description below, but if you want to plug your site and any social media, or if you have anything, do you have anything coming up I think there was something in February you said that you were looking to promote?
In February, we have Share the Love Week for our current students. So they're able to bring their significant others or their friends for free for that week, and they get to come in and try class with them. And so we do like very basic level 1 stuff with them, and that's when the boys get to come play.
Sure. Yeah, and okay, so we didn't actually bring that up. So it is a female only thing.
Yes.
I guess the question that I wanted to ask is, have you dealt with, or was it always that way, or did you come to make it female only?
We started off female only, and I have had a few people contact us, men who wanted to dance, and I just explained that we're women's only environment, and I happily direct them to a studio that does have all sexes, and it's just the vibe at our studio is very feminine and very safe, and I have quite a few students who say that they come to us specifically because we're women only.
Because of that.
Yeah, and maybe they've had a past where, they need to feel safe, and
sure.
So so women and trans women are welcome in our studio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's very nice. I mean, everybody, there's an audience, and there's places that do certain things. So that's what you do.
Absolutely.
That's great. And okay, so it's Studio Phoenix, and if you want to go ahead and promote your social and your
Absolutely. So it's phoenixpole.com, and then our Instagram is Studio Phoenix AH for Arlington Heights.
And where are you located again? What's the address?
3455 Salt Creek Lane in Arlington Heights.
Perfect. And you are starting new sessions in January.
Yes,
is that right?
we are. Absolutely.
So it's perfect timing. We'll be putting this out here probably very quickly. So
Wonderful.
Definitely check them out. Very, very great topics. Very helpful things. I mean, just physical, but the mental part is amazing. It's a real pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate the time, and I hope that people reach out to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.